Greetings everyone, Slizzle466 here, and in today's video we're looking at some of the best wild meta decks to ladder with. We start with Odd Demon Hunter. Now if you follow my channel on a daily basis, you would have seen me play this list in a previous video. It's not very good, but if you need to play Demon Hunter, this is a cheap way to do so. It's basically a deck where you do a lot of face damage, you don't really trade that much, and if you don't win by turn 5 or 6, you're probably gonna lose. Probably a better aggressive version of Demon Hunter is Aggro Demon Hunter. So with this list, you're running a bit of a Paladin tax package. So you're running, in this case, we've got Cult Neophytes, Firewatch Posts. Of course, Demon Hunter has Mana Burn, which is great. You've got Consume Magic for some nice silence. So you play a very aggressive early game. You cheat stuff out with Drekthar. You can mess up your opponent's hand with Glide. This is incredible against Mecha'thun Warlock, for example, or against a slow Druid deck. And then you've got Kurtrus Demon Render. So depending on how many times you've improved your hero's attack, you'll get better minions out of this. But basically what's going to happen is you can start spamming out your board and then attacking with your board. And then, of course, every time you do that, you can refresh your hero power, which only costs 1 mana because it's Demon Hunter, so you can do a lot of damage all of a sudden. Looking at Druid, we start with Beast Druid. This is definitely one of the best decks in the meta. Basically, the mulligan is super easy. You basically just keep your 1-drops, maybe keep a Nerebar Weblord, keep the Thorn-Grown Sentries, and then you just start spamming out minions, doing the whole aggro druid thing. You get to refill your hand with your composting. And then because you've been playing so much stuff, playing so many cheap little spells, your Frost Saber Matriarch is going to be really cheap, whether you draw it or it's in your deck, because it's when you've summoned this game. And then you've got the same thing going on with Knight of the Wild. The catch here is this one has to be in your hand. But I mean, a 0 mana 6/6 is pretty good. You can get extras of those through Oracle of Elune. Bees also helps speed up the whole beast process. And then you've got Arbor Up as your finisher. If you prefer a slower Druid list, you've got Kazakhstan Druid, or Dragon Druid, as you may have heard it referred to. It's basically a deck where you try to get Guff out as soon as possible, and then just start ramping out like crazy. You've got some extra dragons in here to help you out because you might get the Kazakhstan Dirty Ratted or Mutinist, who knows what. So you've got your Sarah Unleashed for some value. You've got some the raid boss Onyxia for some value and a nice little kind of a board clear. It looks expensive, but keep in mind you're going to have 20 mana with Wild Heart Guff. And then you try and... The goal is to finish out the game, of course, with Kazakhstan. Another slow Druid deck which is pretty popular is Linecracker Druid. So Linecracker Druid, again, same initial strategy. Get Guff out as soon as you can, and then try and get to as much mana as possible. This specific list is running the Twig of the World Tree Sphere of Savience combo, which gives you an extra 10 mana, so you can jump straight up to 20 pretty quickly once you've got Guff out. And then you want to basically play Linecracker, Bees, and Earthen Scales to generate thousands of armor. If that combo gets disrupted in some way, or if your opponent is a sneaky little devil and runs Plate Breaker, you've got Mecha'thun as a backup plan. Just make sure your deck's empty, your hand's empty, with the exception of Mecha'thun and either Naturalize or Poison Seeds. Moving on to Hunter. Questline Hunter. Arguably the best deck in the wild meta, in my opinion. It runs very much like the odd Questline Hunter that we had before the Rapid Fire nerf, but now with the inclusion of Dragonbane Shot and Furious Howl, the deck is just an absolute menace, especially if you've got the Tavish out, and then you've also got the Dragonbane. So you're getting a free hero power that's also doing an additional 5 damage to a random enemy. It's just absolutely insane. We've also got Secret Hunter. I personally think this list is really good. It's worked very well for me, not so much for others. I don't know why. But one of the reasons this deck does so well is most players don't know how to play around Hunter Secrets properly, or they just forget what they are. So you catch them off guard, so they mess up because of a pressure plate, or they mess up because of a rat trap, for example. This specific list, you want to get those secrets out really fast. So you've got your Cloaked Huntress, you've got your Dun Baldar Bunker, you've got your Drekthar, and then if that's not enough, you can finish up with a bunch of value with Beaststalker Tavish. Moving on to Mage. Hero Power Mage. It's a quirky little deck. It works if you know what you're doing. You can have a lot of fun with it. You can do some pretty crazy amounts of damage. With your hero power, you've got your Wildfire, Arcane Amplifier, and then you've also got the Magister Dawngrasp, which also gives you an increasingly powerful hero power, which is really good. You've got Jan'alai to give you a Ragnaros the Fire Lord. You've got Modresh to do a ton of damage. So yeah, it's a fun way to play Mage. It's not amazing, but it is viable. Kind of in a similar boat, but a deck list that I'm more comfortable with is Quest Mage. Now, Quest Mage has taken quite a turn because it did get the nerf to open the Waygate from 6 to 8 spells. Sorcerer's Apprentice also got nerfed from 2 to 4 mana, making it essentially useless in this deck. So instead of Quest Mage slamming down a bunch of giants and then taking a few extra turns, maybe 1 or 2 extra turns depending on if you have Vargoth or not, this build goes with taking maybe 6 extra turns. And so you've got Grey Sage Parrot, which repeats the Time Warp, give you an extra turn. You've got Potion of Illusions to bounce those parrots back. And so you can definitely very slowly chip away at your opponent with your slowly progressing board over several turns. Looking at Paladin, we have Reno Paladin. It's not a meme. It's a pretty good deck. It's very mid-range, as you can see. This specific build, as you can see, it's pretty heavy on the legendaries, but one of the reasons for that is because you have Nozdormu the Timeless. Set each player's mana crystals to 10, which is very nice. You've also got the combo of High Priest the Cull to knock you down to 1 health but lots of armor, and then you can start healing back up, whether it's with a Reno or your cards. I don't think this list runs the card that... Oh, there it is. I was thinking of a different card. Red Scale Dragon Tamer. That's the one that helps you draw the dragon. So to try and get the Nozdormu out as early as possible. If I have a look at the top end here, does it run Dragon Queen Alexstrasza? It doesn't, which is great. So this is the only dragon. So you're definitely in a pretty good position to high roll and have a lot of fun. Even Paladin is also not a meme anymore. I mean, it was originally the best deck in the meta, and then Call to Arms got nerfed to 5, and then it became a meme, and then Call to Arms got unnerfed, and then it was still a meme, but then they printed a bunch of cool cards, one of those being Dun Baldar Bridge, and the deck's really, really good now. So this is a tax. This is a tax build. So you've got Nerebar Web Lords in here. That's it. That's it for slowing down your opponents. To be honest, if you're queuing into a ton of Shaman, it just stops them in their tracks. But the good thing here is you can play Dun Baldar Bridge into Call to Arms to get a horrendous amount of value. And yeah, the games go really quick, and you can make some pretty ridiculous boards that you can then knock out your opponent with Battleground Battlemaster. Looking at Priest, Priest really has gone aggro now. Obviously the first one being Aggro Priest. So this is the Aggro Priest you're probably familiar with. I preferred the pirate lists. I know there are lists that don't run pirates. Maybe they run Undertakers and Death Rattles, or maybe they run a whole bunch of weird tech cards. I just like the pirate build. It's consistent. It does the job. There is a plate breaker in here, and that is because at Legend, because a lot of these decks have success at Legend. At Legend, there's Druids everywhere, like there's no tomorrow. So that's why you see a plate breaker in here. If you're not queuing into a bunch of Druids, just take it out. Maybe throw in a Bloodsail, Corsair, or any card of your choice. It's up to you. Loatheb maybe, and just see how it goes. I also consider Combo Priest pretty aggro. So basically here, you're trying to get your minions to stick. You can cheat them out with Drekthar. And if they do stick, there's a pretty good chance you can draw through a lot of your deck, or maybe trade if you need to get the card you want. So you can make one of your minions huge and knock out your opponent. This specific list is not running Potion of Madness, which I personally am a big fan of. However, it is a card that your opponent can play around. It also requires you to have to run Wave of Apathy as well, which might not be optimal for you. But yeah, there are lots of versions out here, but this is just one I found that's been having success by multiple people. Moving on to Rogue. We've got Quest Rogue. So Quest Rogue, it's a pretty, this build is pretty straightforward. Bloodsail Flybooter is your best friend. You try and bounce it back with your Shadow Steps or your, where are they? Daring Escapes, for example. You can complete the quest pretty fast because the quest did get unnerfed back to its original state, the Crystal Core. So you've also got, I also like the Blade Master Summeru in here for a board clear, which is nice because this deck is pretty weak to aggro, but it does better against slower decks. But yeah, if you like Quest Rogue, there you go. If you want to play a more quirky take of Rogue, you got Pillager Rogue. Once you learn the combo, it's not that hard to pilot. It becomes muscle memory after a while, but you just start throwing out all these minions, playing scabs to get things cheap, bouncing things back, and then doing tons of damage with Spectral Pillager. Looking at Shaman. Shadowwalk Shaman. Now when I say Shadowwalk Shaman, I mean more of a freeze Shaman. So this is more consistent than the Reno Shaman builds that you might see floating around. Basically what makes Shadowwalk Shaman insane is the Flurgle Toxfin combo to clear boards, the Snowfall Guardian, and then getting extra effects off Makor, or Zolar, or Grumble. You just make your opponent's life miserable. You make them not be able to attack, not be able to play spells. You've got Blade Master Okani in here to counter spells and or minions. And then once you've made their life miserable temporarily, you then make their life miserable permanently by playing Shadowwalk over and over again until they just give up. The other Shaman deck, Overload Shaman. Now you might be thinking, hey, what happened to your Overdraft? I was stupid and I accidentally disenchanted it because for some reason I had 2 golden Overdrafts and not regular ones, and I dusted all my goldens, so that's unfortunate. But this deck is great. Again, it's one of these decks that performs really well at High Legend. I once managed to get it to Diamond 1 from Diamond 5, but then I just got killed by everything and fell back to Diamond 3. But yeah, I don't often see the Tunnel Trog in the lists, which is a cute little addition. I think that's okay to have in there, have some board presence. You can also pull them off Drekthar. But keep in mind, I personally like my Drekthars pulling the Spirit of the Frogs, so this does kind of water it down. So maybe make sure you keep Tunnel Trog in the mulligan, which you would do anyway. But you can do an incredible amount of damage out of nowhere when you have the Spirit of the Frog on board, and then you can finish off by shoving a couple of overdrafts into your opponent's face. Second last class, looking at Warlock. Even Reno Lock. I don't think this is as good as Even Lock, but Reno Lock is not particularly great. So if you really need to play Reno Lock, this is one of the best ways you're going to do it. it does run a lot of your classic arena lock cards that you might love to play. For example, your Void Caller, your Archwitch Willow, which you typically don't see in even lock because it's too slow. Enhanced Dreadlord, Moarg, Blood Reaver Gul'dan, N'Zoth. So definitely a lot of typical Reno lock top end, but then you've got the even hero power and all the nice synergies that come with it to play a slower but more controlled type of even lock. Speaking of even lock, this is the pretty stock list that you tend to see flying around, and this is the one I tend to gravitate towards. I'm a huge fan of the Goldshire Knoll into Recombobulator combo. It's hilarious, and a lot of the time it's an instant win. I also like the addition of Blade Master Okani, just to get some extra value and annoy your opponent. And don't forget Raise Dead can bring stuff back. Obviously Raise Dead can't bring the Knoll back if you recombobulate it, but it can bring the Blade Master Okani back, which is great. Giant Warlock, or you might see it referred to as Dark Glare Warlock. I say giant because not everyone runs Dark Glare in their lists. But basically, it's the old school Dark Glare that we used to see up in Tier 1, but now it kind of floats around Tier 2, Tier 3. Though some people might fight me on that because it's an incredibly popular deck at High Legend. But basically, you just do the whole Dark Glare thing that you used to do. But now, if you got a lot of cards in your hand, you can throw out Antherons, you can throw out Goldshire Knolls, and then you've got Battleground or Battlemaster as a finisher, if you don't happen to have enough giants on the board. And the last one I want to mention is Mecha'thun Warlock. You're probably pretty familiar with it. It runs the heavy draw cycle to draw through the deck as absolutely quickly as possible. You've got the Rune Mythful Rod to discount your hand. You've got the Dreadlich Tamsin to get a bit of board clears, get a bunch of cards, ridiculous value, upgraded hero power, I would say, because you're not taking damage anymore and you might be getting more 3/3s on the board. If your Mecha'thun gets dirty ratted, that's okay. You've got Tamsin's Phylactery as a backup. If your Mecha'thun gets Mutinist, well, that's just your bad luck. You're running so many minions anyway that it's not guaranteed that Mutinist is going to hit it. So this is a very powerful and very straightforward deck to ladder with. Speaking of straightforward decks to ladder with, we end with Pirate Warrior. Now, I actually don't think Pirate Warrior is as good as it used to be. I think the meta was targeting it so hard that it kind of got pushed almost out of Tier 1, I would say. But if you want a really easy deck to play from, say, Diamond 5 to Legend, and you don't really want to have to think that much, this is a fantastic choice. But what you will find is at Legend, the deck is not particularly good, because at Legend, as I mentioned earlier, there are Druids everywhere. There are Dark Glare Warlocks everywhere that like to throw giants down that you can't deal with. But it's a really easy deck to play, and you can get wins very quickly. If you would like to try any of these decks for yourself, you will find all the deck codes in the description below. If you're a mobile user and it's difficult for you to access those deck codes, there is an easy to enter link to my Discord. You can join, visit the deck lists only channel, and you'll find it's much easier to copy and paste the deck codes in there. If you want to help support this channel, you can click the subscribe button, click the notification bell, leave a comment. Make sure you check my 2 announcements below regarding a standard bundle giveaway and an upcoming invitational theory crafting stream that Blizzard has invited me to do for the wild mode. And until next time, hope to see you again.